This is the Hustler's Corner.
Hello, hustlers and squatters. Welcome to the Hustler's Corner. Be call me Spuda out here. Johannesburg, South Africa. First up, we go to the Shop sign on the count of 1, 2, 3. Click, 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 click. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. Let's go to the like button as well, the subscription button. Click. And don't forget to switch on that notification bell. We're back again, and this time we're back with a brother I met about 4 years ago. So I'm very excited to bring him on to you guys. A lot of you guys, or some of you guys who are in the film industry in South Africa, you might have been familiar with some of his work. He's a US-based entrepreneur. He's an investor. He's a philanthropist and an international film and television financier. He's a content producer, a distributor. He's got over 20 years of Hollywood industry experience. He's also worked tirelessly investing in various sectors across Africa for the past 14 years. Now, this includes mining. He was in the mining industry, dealing with heavy mining equipment leasing, market entry advisory to companies interested in expanding into the African continent. He's done a lot of work in the education space, renewable solar energy, and precious metals. He has developed a very robust and influential business network across the United States, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East and Asia, with a strong focus on developing business and trade opportunities between the private sector and emerging markets across Africa. Through his various South African film and television production and co-productions, he has specifically been at the forefront of creating hundreds of jobs, mentorships behind the camera, while also launching countless careers in front of the camera in the country, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Kenya. He created the competitive and acting reality show called Top Actor in South Africa. He did Top Actor Africa also. He also launched the careers, many careers, of a lot of famous people on television. Oh, so many names. Oh, man, it's so beautiful to have him here. He's done a lot of work with DSTV, BET. He's done a lot of work with Atando Kani, the great John Kani that we just had on the show as well. His resume goes on and on. He went on to produce and distribute Kings of Joburg Season 1, which ultimately became one of Netflix's highest viewed series in South Africa. And he's back in the country to record Kings of Joburg and a whole lot of other productions as well. He's done motion pic.
Nice.
Samad Davis,
Stop.
ladies and gentlemen. Samad. Boom, 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 boom. I can go on the whole day. And maybe let me see what they call you. I call you an entrepreneur. But they call you an entrepreneur, film, TV, real estate developer, mining. You're in bringing companies into the African continent, doing a lot of philanthropy work too, bro.
You have to.
Samad, good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you for embracing me. The first time I met you was when I was doing the morning show.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I since started following you on social media.
Yes.
And social media makes it such that it's like we talk every week, but I haven't seen you in like 4 years. How have you been?
It's been about 4 years, right? 4 years. Time flies. I feel like it's longer than 4 years.
You think so?
I don't know, because we had the 2 years of COVID, right?
Oh, 2 years of COVID, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like I knew you before.
Probably. Maybe 5 or 6 years.
Maybe 5. I feel like 5 is about right.
Yeah, because back at the time when we met, we both didn't have any ounce of gray. So I see there you got some gray.
I got like 2 trying to come in.
Same here. I got a couple of gray hairs as well, you know. How's the journey been, bro?
The journey is good. I'm still on it.
Yeah?
I'm still on a journey, man. You know, and it's interesting, right? Because you get to these milestones and you don't realize how far you've come. And you're still going. You feel like you haven't arrived until someone reminds you and reads out something like you just did. You say, "Wait a minute, who is that? Did I do that?" Yeah. So it's life is about chapters, man. We just keep turning those pages, you know.
Yeah.
And I look back. I break my life up into chapters. Literally, I feel like I lived a bunch of different lives.
Same here.
So, I mean, like, this is the next chapter, right? You're in a new journey in terms of when I met you on doing the morning show. Now you've
transitioned onto the internet. I'm on the internet now.
The best place to be.
That's the best place to be.
It's
I'm
freedom.
with the young cats, bro.
It's freedom.
I'm learning from the young cats. I'm being inspired by the young cats. My team is young cats. It's a whole new thing. And coming from the mainstream, for me, it's challenging, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's freedom. Who can block you? You have full control.
But before there was Hollywood, before there was all of this glamorous resume, there was Samad, the young boy from Ekasi. We call it Ekasi. You guys call it the hood, right?
The hood.
What's your story, bro? Where were you born? Where you from?
I'm from Newark, New Jersey. One of the most iconic cities in America. One of them, a lot of history. We have the first international airport in the country was in Newark, New Jersey. We have the biggest railroad hub that connects the rest of the country. So Newark Penn Station. We have the seaport, which most of the goods that come into the eastern part of the country comes into that port. So from that standpoint alone, my city was very much a key player in what's happening in that region, in that part of the country. A lot of history, a lot of riots. The city's gone through a lot. The crack epidemic, the heroin epidemic. So I grew up in the 80s. I wasn't born in the 80s, but I'm saying me going through my growing pains were in the 80s. And in the 80s was crack. All the elements that comes with being in the hood, right? Crack, crime, you name it. People selling drugs, people getting arrested, people going to prison, friends dying, getting murdered. That trickled all the way into the 90s. But by trade, I'm a licensed barber.
Oh, so
Yes.
you're a barber.
So it's funny story is my father, when we were young, me and my brother, he said it's too expensive to keep going to the barbershop. So he decided to buy his own clippers. And he tried to cut my hair, my brother's hair. My older brother. He messed his hair up. My older brother said, never again will he touch my hair. So he started cutting his hair himself. But my brother's like, he's a neat freak. So if he takes a shower, he cuts his hair, he takes a shower. Then I'm like, well, can you cut my hair? He's like, no, I'm clean. I took a shower already.
Yeah.
Cut your hair yourself. So then I started cutting my own hair. That led to me cutting my friend's hair. Growing up, I would cut everybody's hair. And then in high school, I would cut everybody's hair. And then officially, I learned, I got my license officially. And I found my way into a barbershop that was around for like 27 years. And I used to rent my chair. So I would pay the owner, whatever per week. But I'm still working for myself, basically.
Yes.
And I grew my clientele. So I used to cut the whole hood's hair.
Wow.
And so my clients might be a businessman, a construction worker, a robber, somebody, a murderer.
Yeah.
But everybody loved their barber.
Yeah.
You see?
Because you offload all of your problems onto your barber.
Yeah, one customer to the next. I know everything that's going on in the hood. I know who got killed, who got robbed, who went to jail, who's doing what. The hood. And in the barbershop, you can buy everything from your glasses to your clothes to a house to a car to dogs, you name it, to lotion. Every day, people coming in selling stuff. Hustling. But one of my clients was a construction worker, older guy. And he's always come into the shop with his overalls and stuff. Older guy, and would just tell me about construction. And then real estate, right? Because he worked for another guy who was a real estate developer. This is 1993, 4, right?
90s, yeah.
Early 90s. And then I just said,
I remember that 90s hip hop. But anyway, yeah.
Then I said, I want to, teach me the real estate game. I want to learn the real estate game. He said, if you're serious, and I'll introduce you to the guy he works with, another black guy. And this guy sold me a house, a house that was abandoned for 5 years. And where I grew up at, a home might have 3 levels, 3 apartments, but it's a house, a regular, a single family house, not single family, but a house that stands alone. The first floor may be a 3-bedroom apartment. The second floor, a 3-bedroom apartment, living room, dining room. The third floor, 2-bedroom apartment, living room, dining room. But it was abandoned, and whoever lived there before left everything. So he sold me this house for $2,500. But it needed a complete rehab. You couldn't live in it.
Yeah.
So $2,500. I went in, I maybe spent $1,000 cleaning it out. I got some dumpsters. I gutted it down to the beams, the studs. And then I sold it to somebody else for $30,000.
Yeah.
who was trying to get into real estate.
Yeah.
So 33,500 to 30,000. And then I was just like, well, let's keep doing this.
10xing. Oh, yeah.
Let's keep doing this. And so I've been in real estate since that time to this day.
Flipping houses. You started with flipping houses, yeah.
Flipping houses. And back then you couldn't get a construction loan. Like now it's easy to do real estate in America. I mean, there's hard money lenders. So I mean, if you have a project you can get a certain amount of money to buy it and enough money to fix it at a high interest rate for maybe 6 to 12 months. But then by the time you fix it, you sell it. And it's now worth, twice the amount that you got it for, right?
Yeah.
And everybody gets paid, you make your profit, you move on. But back then there was no loans for construction.
Yeah.
I mean, especially not to black people,
Yeah.
But that got me into real estate. And then I started making money in real estate, which led me to owning restaurants. So then I bought a restaurant. I built a restaurant on the other end of the avenue where my barbershop was, because I ultimately got my own barbershop. I went from renting my chair to owning my own shop down the street from the original shop.
Yeah.
At the end of the avenue. At the top of the avenue, I had a restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got the avenue on lock. Yeah. Whether they're coming that side, they have to give you some dollars.
Yeah.
Whether they're coming from
but
that,
it works because my clients, I had so many clients,
Yeah.
they just feed them to the restaurant.
Ooh.
Everybody's supporting the restaurant. So that was in Newark. That did so well. My mother's from New York. She's from Harlem. And the whole side of the family is from New York. My father's from Newark, New Jersey. So we go from every holiday, we go from Newark, first part of the day, and then go over to the city for the second part of the day, right? If you go to Harlem today,
the brownstones are expensive, bro.
You can't afford
You
one
can't
of those
even
brownstones.
afford. Even in Brooklyn, it's worse, bro.
But if I knew what I knew now, back then we'd have bought. I would have raised money to buy the whole block.
Same year.
Yeah.
That's why when that 444 album from Jay-Z came out, I was like,
Hey.
if a favorite musician of mine when I was young could have recorded this content, if I knew then,
If we knew that. I mean,
even
hindsight
this
is
area
20.
right here, just a few years ago. I mean, now, bro,
Exactly. Hindsight is 2020.
that's real estate for you.
Yeah, it's real estate for you. But so that restaurant did really well, but the overhead was 3 times the amount. So if my rent was $800 a month in New Jersey, it's $3,000 in Harlem. But the back blocks were abandoned. So if it's during the day, during the week, you'll have traffic. But at night and the weekends, not so much because not so many people lived. The whole area was abandoned. So I started to realize I'm becoming a slave to the restaurant. I'm going back and forth. I'm fading out of the barbershop business. I still own the shop, but I'm not cutting anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I'm running back and forth checking the restaurants. Now New Jersey restaurant is paying for New York now, because New York, it was just a bad move, right?
Yeah.
And the person who I had managing my restaurant in New Jersey, he came to me and he said he needs to resign because he's going to film school. Right? So fast forward between that statement and, I don't know, 18 months later, I'm like, I'm done with this restaurant. I'm not happy. I'm like, what's the next chapter for me? I'm not happy. I mean, you want to feel passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah, you want to be happy.
And I realized I'm not happy because I'm not even, when I was cutting hair, I was happy. I made a lot of money. I was happy. I knew everybody. You felt the love every day, right? But now I faded out of that. I'm back and forth between New Jersey and New York. I'm getting parking tickets every day. I'm stuck in traffic every day. I'm just not happy. I mean, it was a good idea. I needed to cut my losses. So 18 months later, I run into the person who was managing my restaurant at the post office before I was going to the city. And he's like, film school was the best experience I had.
Film school.
Film school.
Okay.
Now, I've always been creative. I didn't know the rules of it. I didn't know how to tap into my creativity. So, and back then there was no cell phone. I wasn't just going to Google whatever the film school was and call them right then and there. So I had to go home and check it out. I called them. They said, come in tomorrow and just check us out. Next day I go into that film school. And I'm like, oh, film, video, and arts in New York City. I was like, okay, this is kind of dope, right? Plus I was ready for that next chapter. I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. And now I can learn how to really tap into my creativity as well. So I went for maybe 2 years. I kind of studied every aspect, about 18 months, every aspect of filmmaking, from producing to editing to writing to directing to just understanding everything. But once I did that, we had they gave us equipment for a week. Film. This is back in 16 millimeter days.
Yeah.
This is film, not the digital stuff we do now. Film cameras. They gave me film cameras, 2 film cameras for a week, and all the lighting and sound equipment to go make my thesis. And every student had that opportunity. I was the only black kid in there, by the way. And I took that equipment back to my hood, back to, what'd you call it? The Ekasi?
Ekasi, sure.
Ekasi.
Yeah, Ekasi.
I took it back to my hood. No one ever saw a movie being made in where I'm from, right? So I had the whole city behind my little movie. So I had drug dealers donating cars, people's aunts donating, chicken to feed the crew, So it was love. So I made this movie. It was a small movie, but I made it, and from there I added some behind the scenes, just the making of. I added a little music video to the soundtrack for it. And first of all, I was the only one in the school that finished their project. Everyone else had an excuse. They couldn't finish it. But I came into there as an entrepreneur already. So my hustle and my way of thinking outside the box was already different. That's the quality of a producer. You see? Mm-hmm. So all I needed to know was the rules. And so that's why I was the only one who finished, because I'm used to making things happen with nothing. So, but I ended up putting that film out to the streets, and I would sell to the bootleggers. So that the bootleggers would have no reason. This is VHS. You remember VHS?
Yeah. The big tapes,
the
bro.
tape.
I remember that.
This wasn't DVD. This is before DVD. So, but I packaged it up nicely, and I sold it to all the different, back then we had record shops. You can buy records, cassettes or CDs or what have you. Yeah. Incense, oils, whatever. Yeah. So I would sell to those guys, and I would sell to the bootleggers on the streets. But I would sell them at a wholesale price, so they had no reason to bootleg my movie. Yeah. Because I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you the original. Yeah. And you can take that original and you can double your money.
And it comes from the owner.
And it comes from the owner.
The creator, yeah.
So I built a network. I saw that. Wait a minute. It's just like the epiphany I had when I did the first real estate flip. Like, okay, this could work. Same concept. Made something and people wanted to buy it. When I sold it to the bootleggers and the record shops, people were buying it and selling out. They want to reorder. So I'm like, okay, what's the next project? Yeah. And I just kept doing the next thing. And I would use that infrastructure of direct to the bootleggers and the mom and pop shops. And that kind of grew across the country. You start making your way down the south from New Jersey to Pennsylvania to Baltimore, Maryland to DC area to Virginia, Georgia, Atlanta. You start meeting the mom and pop shops and you're selling to them directly. You see? So you build this infrastructure. So by time I did a movie called Dirty Game, which is the movie that kind of gave me an identity in the industry, if you will. That movie allowed me to meet a lot of different people in the business, celebrities,
So basically, this was your entry into the industry. Because your first movie was actually a thesis for school.
Yeah, that was just one, but I did some other stuff in between that.
Okay, I get
but
you.
This particular project took me to, it gave me some recognition.
Yeah, it's like an artist, like a musician who puts out music.
Yeah, and then he has a hit record.
That record that just takes you to the right people. Yeah.
So that movie was called Dirty Game. We made the movie. Now I had this infrastructure already, right? And I went to LA for the Hollywood Black Film Festival. Now we're in a DVD era. So I had this big laptop, and I had a DVD of my trailer. So I'm at the Hollywood Black Film Festival. I'm going to different panels and stuff, and I show this one guy who's speaking at a panel. I show it to him. He said, wait a minute. White guy. He said, when are you leaving? I said, I'm leaving on next week. He said, if you stay 3 more days, you could go to the American Film Market, which is in Santa Monica, which is it's a hotel, the Lowe's Hotel every suite is filled with different distributors or production companies around the world selling content to each other. So somebody from Spain is selling the rights to whatever to a company in the U.S. U.S. Warner Brothers is selling the rights to whatever for Africa. To everybody's there trading content, but companies on a big level. So I'm in there. I don't have a pass, but I got this laptop and
Yeah,
I hustle my way through. And as I'm hustling my way through, day 1, I'm making some contacts. Day 2, I'm making some contacts. But day 3, I run into this black lady, and we're talking, and I show her my trailer. She says, "Wait a minute, you need to meet my colleagues. We will take this. This is great." Met her colleagues. We did a deal at that market for this show. For my movie. But I told them in this deal, I said, I want to make sure, because they can get me in the Walmarts. They got me everywhere. They got the show. They got the movie across all the big. Right now, the only one that's left is Walmart. But back then, it was Walmart. You name it. It was all these big Best Buy. It was all these different shows. Networks. Stores. But I told them, I said, I have this. Only way I'll do this deal is I still have to be able to supply my infrastructure of mom and pops across the country. So that was incorporated in the deal. So I ended up being in all the stores. You can buy in stores, but then we were still able to personally supply everybody from the north to the west coast. Mom and pop shops. So that was interesting. But then from there, that's what I met, like Queen Latifah, P. Diddy saw the movie. Like everybody saw the movie.
Changed your life, man.
Yeah, so it kind of put me, and then next thing you know, Hollywood, the American Black Film Festival, it wanted to screen it, premiere it, which is like the biggest black film festival in Miami. And so I had already had my deal. This is 2002. The film is coming out in October, September, June or so. June was the film festival. I screened it. This Hollywood studio executive was there who watched the film at the screening. And they came to me afterwards and said they want to buy the rights to my film. And they want to remake it with some big names. So now, mind you, I already have a deal. I already have my infrastructure. If they made it with some big names, rewrite it, and made it with some big names, I wouldn't be directing it. Yeah,
but it's your work, so you gotta get paid out of it, right?
But I'm an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't own the IP.
Yeah. But how do you make money out of it and long term?
If I'd have sold it, then I would have got a check. I would have got a check for the the rights, and maybe some credit, but I wouldn't be part of it in a bigger way. Yeah. So I had to make a choice. Do I keep the deal that I have and keep the infrastructure and build a name and also keep the rights? And that's what we decided to do. So I didn't take the offer. Okay. And when it went out, again, as I told you, that's how I started to meet everybody. And that film gave me leverage because it brought me to LA. But one thing led to another. And sometimes you got to stick to your guns, right? Because so to this day, that's still my same business model.
I get you.
It's still my same business model is to approach film and TV as a business, as an entrepreneur, not as a filmmaker. Yeah. Because I never came in to be a filmmaker. So I try to tell people it's a difference. That's why I get offended if you call me a filmmaker. Yeah. Not that it's a bad thing to those who are filmmakers. But for me, somebody who thinks differently and who thinks as an entrepreneur, a filmmaker is just interested in making a film, creating art. An entrepreneur is thinking differently. You're having IP conversations. You're having, okay, what's the business model? What's the return on investment? How do I...
And that's what I want to know. How do you do that now in 2022 with the streaming services? I mean, the DVD era is gone.
Yeah, I've been around long enough to see... Again, I went to film school. It was film camera, 16 millimeter. Yeah, I watched the introduction of digital come into play, and then trying to put a converter on a digital camera with cinema lenses,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then now we have Canons and Reds and all kinds of digital cameras now that can give you the look you want. But I watched these things happen. I watched the industry. I went from VHS. I watched the introduction of DVD. I've been around long enough to see now DVD is dead. Now we're in the streaming world. So, but as an entrepreneur, I'm like, okay, that's the next wave. I'm riding the wave. Okay, what's the new business model?
Yeah.
But my business model is still consistent. Doesn't matter the platform.
I get you.
That's why if you put yourself in a position to have a say in not only just the IP, but how you structure your deals is key. Because if you're a filmmaker, you just want a deal. You just want your stuff out there.
Yeah.
You don't really care.
It's the passion.
It's the passion.
But then again, you gotta pay the bills. So
You
you
gotta
gotta
pay the
think
bills,
with that entrepreneurial mindset.
and you got to set up your next moves.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm.
So if you're not thinking that way, then you get what you get.
What gave you the love for the African continent?
The what?
Africa.
Oh, it's an interesting one.
Because you do a lot
So
of
it's
work
a new
in the
chapter.
you do a lot of work in the continent.
So that's the next. So that's another pivotal chapter in my life, which is, this has been 14 and a half years now, in this chapter. But, and this is why you look at, okay, I told you about the barbershop. I told you about my client. I told you client went from, it turned into real estate. Real estate translated into restaurants, right? My manager at the restaurant went to film school. I got tired, ran back into him, told me about film school. I went to film school, right? Introduced my hustle to understanding the rules of engagement, put it out, went back to the people, put something out, made it to Hollywood, start working my magic. But as an entrepreneur, and you think about film and TV, you're raising money all the time. And I didn't like the feeling of raising money. I don't like the feeling of going to people project by project trying to raise money and being beholden to that. It just doesn't sit right with me. So I said, well, you know what? I want to create a film fund. So this film fund would have a certain amount of money, and then it will allow us to do multiple projects.
I get you.
Versus trying to raise money project by project. So you have a business model. This is what we're going to do per year. This is how the money will come back. This is the type of returns we expect to have, right? And you spell it out. And so I had a meeting with older lady who was in the business, a wardrobe, dear friend. And she, I was talking to her about some stuff, what I'm trying to do. And she said, I got somebody you should meet. It's a girlfriend of hers. Lady was in Wall Street for a long time, made a lot of money, was very successful, running her own securities firm. And she said she would love you. She's really about her business, but I think she would, if you put yourself together properly, let her take a look at it, I think she'd be the person to help you. Because I was trying to raise money this one time, so I don't have to keep doing it 10 times. Anyway, end up meeting. She set the meeting up. We met in New York City. I had already sent her my business plan and all that other stuff. So when you get with other investors, it comes down to being a gut play. If everything else makes sense, then it's going to come down to, do I feel good in my gut to invest money with you?
Yeah.
Right. So at dinner, she says, you know what? I'm in. I like how you presented everything. I like da-da-da-da. It makes sense to me, and I want to help you. So she was my first $2 million investor. And so I asked her a question that to this day, I ask people, other entrepreneurs, and I think it's taking me places in life by asking this question. And that question was, because I could have just been happy, like I got what I came here for, good, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to know, what's next for you? Because I'm always trying to, let me just back up for a second. So there's two types of hustlers. There's three types. But let me say, you got the bad kind of hustle, people who hustle people.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. Then you have a hustler who's all over the place. You're just hustling. You're aimless. You're aimlessly hustling, right? And you're not doing any one thing well. And then you have the hustle that needs to be put on top of anything that you're doing if you want to take it to the next level. So that's the good secret sauce, right? That will separate you from the next person who's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
If you add that ingredient to your disciplined way forward,
Yeah.
you're gonna surpass whoever else.
Yeah.
So I say that to say, I'm always interested in understanding how other entrepreneurs do certain things, and then what's the next chapter for them? Because you might look at someone and say, okay, they're very successful, but everybody still has that next chapter they're trying to go to. It could be as simple as, I made enough money, I just want to be a philanthropist. I mean, that might be what's next for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I asked that, and she said to me, the next chapter for me is Africa. She said, I want to take my resources, my know-how, because her company, she had certain licenses that even some of the big banks had to utilize her for certain international transactions. She said, I want to help governments build infrastructure, finance their different stuff in Africa, different infrastructure projects in Africa.
Yeah.
She said, because there's no reason that they can't do some of these things on another level if they had certain expertise to help them structure funding.
Yeah.
She said, the only problem is I don't have the right connections, and I try to do something. Now, let me introduce my father and my uncle. So my father's a lawyer. My father has been all over Africa. He speaks French fluently. And I'm always the one that he calls about ideas because he knows I can help make something happen.
Yeah.
So he knows how to tap into me. So he would tell me what he said, listen, let's put some money together. Let's get some buses in Congo. I said, what are you talking about? What? I thought he was crazy. Let me tell you, I'm going to be the first to tell you. And I've told him this. I thought he was crazy. Because he would always come to me with these ideas, and I would tell my brother, Dad is talking Africa ideas. It sounds crazy. I said, who's going to fix the bus if the bus breaks down? How are we going to get our money? How do you know who to trust? No, I got it. I just thought it was insane. He said, but if you go to Congo, this is years ago, right? He said, if you go, you think it's a parade. He said, it's not a parade. It's people walking because lack of transportation. So buses could be a good thing that we do, and I thought he was nuts. Now, my
Good
uncle,
heart, but he was passionate about wanting to help out, you know?
yes, but my uncle, God rest his soul, used to work for the U.S. government, and he used to be part of this agency called Third World Trade Institute, which was designed to establish trade between developing nations in Africa and the U.S. government. So, as different heads of state, as Africa was gaining independence, different heads of state would take power, right?
Yeah.
So what's the first order of business? If you're now running a country, your first order of business is to what?
To fix the roads.
Well, you
What do you mean?
got to bring in revenue. You have to look at, okay, what kind of trade, what resources do we have that we can start trading with, especially like big markets like the U.S.
Yeah.
So you can bring in revenue. That's very important. Every head of state came through his office. And he personally went to Africa, 300-something times, 390 times. When Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman in present-day Congo,
Yeah.
Zaire back then,
Yeah.
that's who helped make that happen.
I was a kid. I remember that fight made the headlines.
Yeah, but Don King didn't know the president of Zaire. My uncle did. And him and Muhammad Ali were great friends. So every time Muhammad Ali went to Africa, my uncle was involved with that. So again, if you looked at his legacy webpage, you see every head of state with that uncle. Thank you letters from governments across Africa, right? So after I had that meeting with the lady, and she told me that, I didn't say anything at the meeting, but the next day so we're going from Monday, the meeting's Monday. This story goes from Monday to Friday. Monday, the meeting happened. that night I called my father and said something interesting, because for years he's been saying Africa, Africa. And for years I've been like, what is he talking about? Right?
How old are you?
This is 14 and a half years ago.
Okay.
So I called him. He said, well, you should call your uncle, because there's nobody living that's more connected across Africa than your uncle. And he said, not even a president of one particular country. Because any one country is still tribalism, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. You go to Nigeria, you're only going to go, it's to South Africa, you're only going to go but so far. Vice versa. Nigerian comes here, is like, you have the...
It's relationships that you have to build. Yeah. Business in Africa is relationships.
Yeah, but he's done so much work across all these African countries.
All over the world.
Yeah. He's done so much work across all these African countries that he had the right relationships. So he said, call your uncle, because there's nobody living that's more connected. Tuesday morning, I call my uncle. I tell him about it. Now, he's retired. He lives in Florida. Every day is sunny and warm. His hardest job is keeping up with what day of the week it is. Because every day is sunny and, it's like a Sunday. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So he's not impressed by money. He's not moved by anything unless it has a real purpose to it. I tell him, I said, well, I told him about the conversation and what's what. And he said, well, could you take a call is what I wanted to know. Would you be open to taking a call if I connect these dots? He's like, well, I'll hear it out. He's old school. So then once he said that, I forwarded her, this is Tuesday, his legacy webpage, so she can read up on him. And I said off the back, I didn't want to say none of our meeting, but off the back of it, I thought about it, and I think I have a solution. And so she hits me back like, oh my God, can you come into the office Wednesday? Right? So Monday, Tuesday I talked to my uncle. Wednesday I'm back in the office. Like top floors next to the Chrysler building in New York City in Lexington. Right? So I get them on the phone. They hit it off. Now, first class flight tickets are booked for Friday. My uncle's like, well, listen, come on down to the house for the weekend and let's talk in person and let's hash it out. Right? So my father, myself, the lady, we fly down Friday to my uncle's house. Yeah. And we stay there for the weekend.
And that was going to be your first trip to Africa, no?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
We stayed there for the weekend. Friday night, we just chilling. Saturday, we were going on about all kinds of other stuff. Sunday morning, we sit down and we talk about the opportunity and what we want to do, or what she wanted to do. And he said, well, listen, if you're going to do it, it has to be structured properly. You have to move like this. It has to be like that. And what do you want? Where do you want to start? Based on where you want to start and what you want to achieve, then I'll give you a list of which countries we go to first. And so it was decided to form a company. My father will handle the legal. My uncle will open the door. She will handle the finance. But then they said to me, well, you're the youngest of us all. And you can see the play. And we need you. And I know it gets in the way of your film and the stuff you want to do over here. But we need you here.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? And they all three of them just looking at me. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want to do? And for me, again, I was still trying to find my next move. And I never got into to be a filmmaker, as I mentioned to you.
When I met you, I think you were doing not Top Actor.
No, love. I met you in 2017. 2017
is Kanye and Elto V's movie. What is that movie called?
Love by Chance.
Yes, Love by Chance. Yes.
Yeah, that's when I met you in 2017.
Yeah.
So they all looking at me. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I'll never forget that. I was like, I can always go back and do film and TV later. I'm about this. I want to see where this journey goes, Yeah. And so we had agreed to go to 6 countries that Sunday. And he said, Smart, figure out the logistics with the flights. Figure it out. 2 weeks later, I'm on a plane to Africa. We went to 6 countries in 45 days.
Yo.
So I landed in Africa on a different level. I got introduced to Africa on a different level. Went to Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Benin.
Yeah.
And you're flying from this country to that country, time zones changing.
Yeah.
And we were hosted by heads of state, by the government in each country. So I'm in the room with presidents and vice presidents and chiefs and kings, and it changed my life. I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm telling you, I could tell you in front of the world, I was ignorant when it came to Africa. Because in America, all they show you is growing up, you hear Africa, it's associated with Tarzan, safari, a warlord, dictator, genocide, starving babies with flies, HIV. That's what they promote to the West.
Yeah.
That's all we knew. So you see an infomercial, feed the starving children in Africa.
That's how they brainwash the world.
They brainwash the world. So Africa was not a place that you desired to go to.
Yeah.
Right? So then I land in Africa, and I'm going to 6 countries, and I'm seeing I'm meeting all these beautiful people, and I'm seeing black people in a different way that I never saw before. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And then spiritually, and I'm not talking, it's like my uncle would say, you take a pencil and you break that pencil in half, right? And you bury the pencil. I mean, you fly one part of the pencil to one side of the planet and you bury the other one on the other side of the planet. But there's no better fit to either end of that pencil than the 2 ends that the pencil was broken.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, and that's why I even here in South Africa, right? People will laugh at African Americans. They say, oh, y'all get on our nerves when y'all come here and y'all start talking about, the motherland. You've heard that before?
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
And I would say because you don't understand. We're the most disconnected people in terms of every other person, every other group of people in America can always trace themselves back. I mean, they probably have somebody in the old country.
Yeah.
You know, if it's an Italian, somebody's grandmother, probably somewhere in Italy somewhere. If it's a Chinese person, somebody's still in China. Somebody's still somewhere back home.
Yeah.
Even though Jamaicans and Trinidadians were also dropped off from slavery on those islands. But if a Jamaican is in America, they can still call somebody back in Jamaica. But as an African American, all we could do is go back to somewhere in the South. We don't know. We just cut off from the slave ships and how we were sold in the South. So we're disconnected. We don't have any trace. We don't have a grounding place.
I get you.
Okay?
Yeah,
and we're not actually at home in America.
That's why I love it when you guys come here often. When you
Yeah.
guys visit here often, create relations here.
Exactly.
Open opportunities, trading opportunities, or even content creation. Like what you've done has been amazing.
Exactly.
And I want you to talk about that.
I will talk
You've been
about
doing
that.
a lot of great work, bro.
I will talk about that, but I just want you to appreciate that feeling I had when I first came to Africa.
That's beautiful.
And that's why I'm telling you about the analogy with the pencil. And I can vouch for every other African American that comes to Africa, one part of Africa or another, and they make that statement because it's something spiritually, DNA wise, that connects you back to the other end of the pencil. You see?
Yeah.
So for me, it was a spiritual thing. I just fell in love, and I've never fallen out of love. You see, and I've been coming ever since that first trip. Now, I want to say 3-4 years into that journey, I was with that uncle. It was just me and him in Ghana. We had some meetings and stuff going on in Ghana. And then his friend was the Ashanti Henny in the Ashanti Empire.
Yeah.
The king of all the kings within the Ashanti Akan people. The predecessor was his good friend. He had passed away. The new one is also a good friend, but he was celebrating his 10th year anniversary. So we flew in for that, but that's in Kumasi, but we flew in Accra for some meetings, and then we went to Kumasi. But while I was there, we were waiting to get picked up, and I was watching music videos or something on TV. And I said, these videos look so bad. Because it was like videos from the 80s.
Yeah. Quality was bad.
Quality was bad. And he said to me, isn't that your background too? He said, don't complain about it. Do something about it. He said, I'm sure people in Africa would love to collaborate with you and to bring your expertise to elevate the film and TV industry. He said, be value added. Don't complain about it. He said, you're here enough, and walked off. And when he said that, I said, I am here enough. I'm back and forth. We're back and forth, back and forth. And that is my background too. And while I'm here doing these other things,
I can solve this.
I can also do that.
Because I know people. I know I can create some resources.
Yeah. And so one of the things we were doing in Ghana, and is leasing heavy equipment, mining equipment. So we were partnered with small and mid-scale miners, and we would supply them with the dump trucks, the excavators, wash plants, you see? And we would have a leasing program where we have our own operators. And so I was there doing that kind of stuff. But if I'm here, I'm in country, I could do film and TV too, right? So then I started to inject that into the industry, starting in West Africa. You see? So I played a big part. I did a music video and I didn't want to be in the music video game, but music videos were the entryway into everything else because all the brands use the artists to promote. So I figured, okay, we'll jump into this. I was supposed to do a video for this big artist. We talked about it before I got back into the country. When I got there, he didn't have his money together, right? And I had my team. I brought my own team from the U.S. Yeah. We rented a house. We was just there to do all of the stuff. But the guy didn't have his money. But he came to the house to talk about it, and he brought a few people with him. He didn't have his money to shoot the next day. But the next day, one of the guys that came to the meeting with him was knocking on our door. And he said, listen, I understand what happened with him, but here's what I have, and I have this song. I got this song, and if you can help me. So he had the money, and he had this song, but he wasn't a big artist.
Yeah.
And he had this thing. He was an adopted child. He was Liberian, who lived in Ghana, but was raised by a white South African in South Africa, and then moved back to Ghana. So he had a whole eclectic kind of mix going on, and he was raised on a farm. Yeah. So he had this whole cowboy vibe. Yeah. He called himself the Black Cowboy, but he could play the guitar. Yeah. And he had this weird accent, and he made this song that was a hit.
It became a hit.
Once we put a video to it, yeah. It blew up. Yeah. It just blew up, right? Yeah. And every artist was like, "Who did the video for this guy?" And so
that's what opened the doors.
And so we started doing videos for all the big artists in Ghana, right? Yeah. And I remember we won. It was a music video award season, and we were there, and we won like 7 awards. And it was embarrassing after the second one because we never came there to try to dominate and take over from the other guys who were doing videos. Yeah. But you kept calling us to stage because we did all these different videos and kept winning. And I remember on the 6th video, I went up, got this award, and they said, don't leave back out yet, because I couldn't get back to the seat at the time. So they had another announcement for another category. And this other director won, who I know. And when they didn't see me in the back, but when they accepted the award, some of his people was like, good, them Americans ain't win again. I felt so bad because that wasn't what we came to do.
I get you.
But then ultimately the final award for the night, we won that too.
Yes, bro.
But I didn't, it was a good thing, but again, it wasn't what we wanted to do.
I understand.
But what happened was we helped inject a new level into the industry. So all the other directors had to step up. And so if you go to West Africa, if you look at videos in Ghana, Nigeria, you can't tell the difference between...
the game has stepped up now.
The game has stepped up.
Internet is the future. Internet is now. The future is now, man.
But prior to that, South Africa had better quality videos than what they were doing. Yeah. But you can't tell the difference now.
Yeah.
So we played our part in that, and then I created that format, which was the first rendition of Top Actor. I did it in Ghana, in Nigeria, and in the U.S. And so that became a success. And then so I started injecting. That's how it worked, and I started licensing stuff to DSTV down here. So I found my way back and forth here selling them stuff. So it just kept going. So I'm still very much into what I'm doing in other sectors in Africa. And at the same time, I'm still running film and TV, because if I'm in Africa, I can still handle this and still handle that.
Yeah. And
so for me, being a part of what's happening, job creation, there's so many people I've mentored behind the scenes on projects I'm doing. I always bring mentees in to find out which department they're interested in. You're interested in being a cinematographer? Go in that department. You're interested in directing? You can stay under the wing here. You're interested in doing wardrobe? I'll put you over here with somebody in wardrobe. So you are skilling up, the next generation who probably wouldn't have an opportunity to see what's going on, right? And at the same time, in front of the camera, you're creating opportunities for actors, new actors. You're discovering new actors and giving them a pathway to a career. And then you also are helping existing actors who might be at a high level in the industry, but are ready to cross over.
Cross over and open bigger doors overseas.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've been doing that for a couple of years.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. That's why I would tell you, if you look at, that's why I say it's chapters. Because one thing happens, and it's like, your failures are part of your, I would never take away any of my failures, because my failures are the things that mold you and forge you into being resilient, right? Getting used to adversity, getting used to knowing how to pivot. Because most people don't know how to pivot, If you open this door and it doesn't open, that means you're being driven to try that door, and that door opens. But you would never discover that door unless this door didn't open. I would never discover film and TV if my Harlem restaurant wasn't, successful.
You probably did well, yeah.
If it did super well, I'd probably be franchising restaurants. But that's not what I want to do. I wouldn't be here in Africa. What?
What are you doing now?
Oh, man. So much.
What are some of the things you're doing?
So much. Some things I don't really want to say. Okay. So, but I mean, naturally, I'm still in mining. I'm in the mining space on the exploration side of things. And so we are helping countries and private sector companies discover, whether it be oil, gas, or minerals in a very green way, in an efficient way, in a revolutionary way, in a game-changing way than the way they've been doing it all these years. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. That has me still traveling Africa, but it's not even it's not a money thing as much as it is, again, being part of something that's game-changing, that is helping Africa in a way that they were not able to do prior. I know that sounds vague, but if you think about again, from day one, every country must bring in revenue, right? And if you think about, people say, well, why is Africa poor? Africa's not poor. We know that.
They're taking all the minerals. Africa is feeding the whole world.
But it's true. If you think about just from a mineral standpoint, can you blame a country? I can name I won't name a few, but I'm just saying, a country might have an operating budget of $800 million a year to run the whole country, right? There are districts in America, just small school districts, who may have that very same budget just to run a school district. And you got to run the whole country off of the same budget. Now, at the same time, you might be sitting on every mineral you can imagine. there's no geological reports done since the 70s, since whichever colonizer, geology company or group did exploration to know what's there. But that's the 70s. That data wouldn't apply to really. It's not accurate enough to understand now. So if a country knew how much stuff that they have or what they have, they can then utilize those resources to bring in revenue and build their bridges, fix the roads, schools, whatever the case may be. But they don't have to do geology in your entire country. It will cost a fortune. It's impossible to know. It's impossible. So you're stuck with resources, but you can't harness it. And you're going around to the Dubai Expo, to the Indaba in South Africa, and you're trying to attract investors to come and do mining based on data that you don't really know what's there, which is a hard proposition to ask somebody, say, okay, I'm going to come and I'm going to put some money into your country in this sector, and I'm going to spend 3 years guessing, hoping that something is there. And then by the time we discover something, then we may run out of money and now have to go raise money and convince people that this country is safe enough for me to do. It's a hard road to generating money for a country to do. But if they understand exactly what's in the ground and how much of it is in the ground, then they can put it out for tender. They can give a real proposal to investors based on, and they take the government will have royalties. So now they're generating money. They can grow their budget every year because now they're using their own resources to. I know that sounds crazy, and maybe I shouldn't be talking about this.
It would be interesting to understand the mining industry. I mean,
the mining industry is very interesting. So like South Africa has a very mature mining industry, right? It's not so much; it's more private sector dominated. I mean, the government might get taxes or money for permits and licenses. I'm not speaking on South Africa. It's not my place to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying South Africa is far more advanced in the mining industry than a small country somewhere else in Africa. Okay?
I get you.
So when you think of investing in Africa, South Africa's always in the list of, yeah, we'll try South Africa. But if you talk about some of these other countries, more landlocked countries, deep in the middle somewhere, it's hard to really make that as attractive as you could do South Africa. And they don't have a robust, South Africa has ports, right? It has many ports, infrastructure, roads, railroads. So these other countries don't have
easier
that.
For them to milk the minerals.
Yeah, so I'm not speaking about government or anything. I'm just saying the difference is South Africa has a more private sector driven mining industry than some of these other countries. And so in order for a country to understand its resources and be able to generate money, they need to understand their resources in a way that they can make a business case to attract investors, or if they do it themselves. But they can then generate the money that they need to generate so that they can go back to what the first meeting I had in New York was, building their own roads, building their own bridges without asking for the money. You're leveraging your own resources to do your own thing. So from my side, any involvement I have from there in that space, the value add for me is I'm part of a technology company that has a solution. For me, I'm not in the business of extracting. I have nothing to do with that. But we have the ability to help them identify value, right? And quantify.
I get you.
And then what they do from there is on them.
Yeah.
So that's the side I'm on. I don't want you to think I'm out here
that's beautiful.
Pillaging resources from Africa. I'm sure somebody's going to see this and say, that's why he's in Africa. He's trying to.
I'm talking about the white supremacist system. No, I wasn't talking about you.
Listen, this is what I say.
Complicated system.
This is my motto.
Yeah.
Because when people bring up racism, people bring up all of the pitfalls. I say, if you know better, you do better.
Yeah, what's the solution?
The problem before is that we didn't know better. We didn't know the game. We didn't know how this was happening. Then you get in the system. You're like, okay, this store, okay, it's a little hard to penetrate that way, but okay, I see how they playing their game. Yeah. But I got this avenue, and I'm going to build this way.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back to me because they're going to need me because I've built this way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you know the system, so now you can do better.
Yeah.
So when you know the system, I don't care. We've all been through it. But again, it's created a resiliency, right, that most people don't have. Because if you come from struggle and you come from not having and got to start from scratch generation after generation, you have to figure out a way to, right? And those who can figure out a way, you're like one of one, right?
Yeah.
You're one over one. You're one on one, right? So now you're doing this platform so you can show other people how to become a one of two, a one of three, a one of 10, right? That's the whole concept, right? But so if we say these gatekeepers have done this for this long, okay, great. That's how they played it. They've been good at it. Much success to you. But now I understand. So now where's my way of getting into the system and making space for other people?
Yeah.
So I don't even get caught. I don't spend too much time on, what the slave masters did to us. I know, I hate it.
Focus on the solution.
But now it's like, okay, we went through that. Now what? How can I break the generational curse?
Yeah.
Right? Because we only got a limited time on this earth.
Yeah.
So am I going to spend it stressing out about what they did? I'm acknowledge what they did, and now I'm gonna pivot and go in a direction to help so many people. So I don't do anything for money. Money comes if you're doing what you love and you're good at it, you will make money. But it has to be tied to. So if I'm on set, I'm shooting something here now. I'm on set, right? And I sit back as we're setting up, and I'm watching all these people work. I mean, I'm watching them have jobs from something that I am part of putting together and positioning in a way where there's a budget where all these people could work.
Yeah.
And then they go home and buy this and buy that and feed their family and pay for school, pay for this, right? And for me, beyond being able to say, oh, look at me, I'm doing this. Whatever, I'm doing that. But to see how it helps other people and the excitement of other people, that's the payday for me.
Yeah, that's what makes you happy.
That's what makes me happy because I know beyond me, I'm just passing through. That's what I say. People might not like that.
This is purpose and passion.
Purpose, passion,
right?
And pivot.
Yeah. Purpose, passion, pivot. Mr. Samad David, I'd like to invite you again. Thank you, bro.
Thank you very much.
It's interesting. It's interesting, man, to keep connecting and just keep watching each other's journeys online. And let's keep growing and imparting knowledge to the younger generations.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
And big up for all the jobs you've been creating, the relations you've been creating. We really, really appreciate people like yourself, And
Thank
keep
you.
doing it, bro. There's people like me who are watching who appreciate you.
Thank you
And
very much.
sorry for the loss of Mr. Shona Ferguson. I know you work closely together as well.
Yes, what a loss.
That was quite a blow.
We keeping his legacy alive.
Yeah.
Connie's keeping his legacy alive. We're doing everything we can to keep the legacy alive.
Yeah. And all the best.
But he was a one of one. That's another one. So you
He
meet
was
people
everywhere.
who's like a one of one. I got a friend, Mr. Organic in the US. He's just one of the ones. He has a brand called One of Them Ones. Shout out to him. But it's true. It's not every day you're gonna meet certain people who do things who's much bigger than themselves. And so you're like one of them ones as well.
Appreciate it, bro. We're
It's
vessels,
bigger than
man.
you. Yeah,
It's bigger
vessels.
than all of us. Yeah.
That ain't the money. You can go and you can travel the world, you can do certain things, but then what?
Yeah.
Then what? What did you do in that dash that will affect the lives of others in a positive way? That's the secret sauce for me.
I get you.
And organically,
Yeah.
like organically just doing things that, hey, we can make all this money, we could do this and that, but if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't have a bigger cause tied to it, for what? Because you can't take none of it with you when you're gone. That's for sure. But what you can take with you when you're gone is the things that other people are in a position to do based on the work that you did while you were here. That's what goes with you.
That's my parting shot. That's his parting shot. Samad Davis, go follow him on social media. all of his platforms, find out more about his work. He's doing incredible work. There's a lot of things actually we didn't even touch on this interview. So as you follow him, you'll find out a whole lot of other things that we didn't even speak about. So that's why he'll have to come back in a year or so when he's achieved even more. Thank
At
you very
Samad
much, bro.
Davis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. God bless you and thank you for coming through. We'll see you guys on the next video.
This is the Hustler's Corner.